Okay, I'll call this to order, and I'll ask our clerk to call the roll of the board to establish a quorum.
Commissioner Blakemore.
Present.
Commissioner Ashby.
Here.
Chairman Whitfield.
Here.
Commissioner Hart.
Here.
Commissioner Stoltz.
Present.
All right, all members are present. Thank you for that. I would like to make a motion to the board here tonight that we make just a couple of small modifications to our agenda. We have our auditor here tonight that's going to present the audit, so I want to move him up on our agenda to right after we approve the minutes. And then right after that, we'd like to add Fire Chief Blake Hodge to do a presentation for us. So if we could add Chief Hodge after the information of our audit. And then after that, we would move right into our public comment. So I'd make the motion that we move up our audit presentation to after the minutes, and then Chief Hodge to do his presentation after that. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Hart. Any further discussion or any other modifications of the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Okay, we do have our minutes from our meeting back on March 23rd, 2023. The clerk has prepared those. They are in the packet, and they can also be found online. Is there any questions, concerns, or modifications to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Motion to approve minutes is presented.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Stoltz. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Blakemore. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as presented. Okay, on our modified agenda, we have Mr. Clay Pilgrim from our CPA firm, and if you'll come up and give us the presentation, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioners, for having Rustin back to do your audit. Hasn't been too long ago I was here speaking with you. I think we were here 4 or 5 months ago talking about last year's audit. So got a little later start, of course, on the 2021 audit, but we're here to present the 2022 audit, and I'll say that the report and all necessary documentation was submitted to the State of Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts timely, as well as the single audit, which we'll talk about a little later, was also submitted timely. So all necessary reporting, and also worked with the landfill director to get that submitted as well. So all necessary documentation has been submitted timely for 2022. So you should have a handful of items there. You should have a bound audit report. Looks like this, a lot of good stuff there. And then you've got a couple letters, which one of those is just some required communications, and the other one's just some suggestions we have as far as audit findings and such are concerned. I'll spend most all of my time in this bound presentation here that you all have. Unless there's specific questions, of course, we can refer to any of the other items as well. Before I get started talking about a few numbers, I want to first thank you all, but also thank your entire team. Obviously, Mr. McConnell, we bother the most probably out of everybody in the county, but we do visit various departments, constitutional offices, department heads, employees, I mean, across the board. We really spend time with a lot of folks. Everybody's very helpful. The fact that we were able to get everything done timely was a testament to the folks you have. So we want to thank them and thank you all. All right, so looking at the first slide here in front of you, it talks about our audit opinion, and our independent auditor's report is found on pages 1 through 3 of this bound report. There was a small change this year in that letter. It's not a change of anything as far as the county is concerned. It's an auditing standard change that basically changed the format of this letter. So previously, or I guess when you think about the independent auditor's report, you think about what's the goal of that report. It's the audit opinion. I mean, that's what the main purpose of that report is. Well, previously you'd find that opinion stuck down on either the bottom of the first page or the top of the second page. And so what this did is basically move that opinion to the very first thing you read in the letter. And so I am pleased to present that for 2022. We do have an unmodified opinion, or a clean opinion. Nothing came to our attention during the audit that would prohibit us from issuing an unmodified opinion. We do follow government auditing standards for the audit, of course, with you all being a county. These financial statements we're talking about, referring to here, are the responsibility of Walker County's management, and our responsibility as your independent auditor is to opine upon, give an opinion on those financial statements. They are not materially misstated, whether due to error or fraud. All right. Call your attention in that entire, how many pages we got here? This entire 112 pages you've got here. There are only two statements in that entire, all of those 112 pages that bring all activities of the county together in one on a full accrual basis of accounting. So that's going to be your general fund, your SPLOS funds, your T-SPLOS funds, any special revenue funds like hotel, motel, those sorts of things, and also your enterprise funds. Like the landfill, for example. Those are all in one on these statements, and that's the only two statements in the entire report, and those are found on pages 15 through 17. Those are called the government-wide statements, which are the statement of net position, going to be similar to a balance sheet for a business, and a statement of activities, which is going to be like an income statement. I've got a few numbers from those statements. Net position, when we look at net position, of course, is the equity of the county. That's going to be your assets, less your assets plus your deferred outflows of resources, less your liabilities, less your deferred inflows of resources, going to give you net position. You see I've got a 3-year comparison there for you, but we'll look focus on 2022 there. Net investment in capital assets, that's going to be land, buildings, equipment, less accumulated depreciation on those assets, less any debt utilized to acquire those assets. It's $98,408,256. Restricted net position, good example there would be SPLOS funds that you're holding that you have not yet expended at year end. It's $11,525,007. Unrestricted net position, of course, the residual there, $31,541,482, gives you total net position $141,474,745. For the year, similar increase to the prior year, but you had $15,580,932 increase in net position. All right, looking next at your general fund, you all probably spent a lot of time talking about the general fund, as that is the chief operating fund of the county. For the year, revenues real similar to the prior year in total. They increased $24,337, or about 0.1%. A few significant changes as far as line items are concerned. Property taxes decreased $1,016,882. TAVT, your title ad valorem taxes, increased $118,749. Local option sales tax, we're seeing an increase in sales tax across the board, especially in North Georgia counties. Increased $537,683. Fines, fees, and forfeitures increased $162,361, and then other revenues, which was due to some insurance proceeds, increased $176,474. On the expenditure side, those increased $419,386, or about 1.7%. A few significant line items or departments that changed for the year. Tax assessor was up $203,881 due to personal and contract services. Sheriff was up $325,832, personal services there. Medical services, if you recall, there was a payment last year, payment to others last year. They were down $1,084,583. Highways and streets up $365,092 due to capital outlay. This next slide gives you kind of a graphical or a chart depiction of those numbers we just talked about as far as your revenues and expenditures of the general fund. 3 fiscal years there for you. Kind of see a little trend line there. As you can see, revenues being the green line, somewhat similar to the prior year. Expenditures also somewhat similar to the prior year there. You'll see $32,634,354 for revenues, $25,393,768 for your expenditures. Now these numbers, this is your revenues and expenditures. These don't include your other financing sources and uses, which are kind of below the line. That's going to be like transfers to other funds or transfers from other funds, which there were some during 2022. So in other words, you can't just take your revenues and less your expenditures there and get the bottom line, so to speak, of the entire fund. All right, next slide talks about the landfill fund. Call your attention to a few things here. Had a pretty significant change during this fiscal year, but it was really just due to an estimate change. However, an estimate change is a current year change. That's not something that requires any kind of prior period restatement. Only corrections of errors, those sorts of things are prior period restatements. But there was a change here that did cause, as you can see, there's a net position deficit in the landfill fund. That deficit did go down between 2021 and 2022, as you can see there, by a little less than $800,000. However, pretty much 100% of that was due to this estimate change I was talking about in relation to the landfill closure and post-closure care liability. There was a change there. EPD, we get or your finance folks get a spreadsheet. It's a calculation from EPD that typically just has an inflation factor change on it. But there was a change in that regard this year, so that caused that landfill closure, post-closure care liability to go down in the year. And again, because it's a change in estimate, it's a current year activity item. So it caused your operating income to be an income and not a loss. It would have been a loss without that change in estimate of about $15,000 versus prior year was $125,337. So. And you can see the difference there in your landfill closure, post-closure care liability from $3,548,604 at the beginning of the year to $2,758,43 at the end of the year. All right, these next two slides have some information on special purpose local option sales tax and transportation special purpose local option sales tax. Those two schedules are found on pages 109 through 111 and 112 in that bound report. Those schedules give a little more detail. Of course, those details are by the projects that are approved in the referendum. But for 2022, the county expended $6,932,041, all from the 2020 referendum as far as SPLOST was concerned. On the T-SPLOST side, the county expended $4,537,912. And again, more details on those are found in that bound report. The next slide, I mentioned earlier government auditing standards. So in accordance with government auditing standards, we are required to consider internal controls and compliance for the county. This would be where we would look at your internal controls, your processes, your policies, procedures. We did not have any material weaknesses this year to report at all in the controls of the county, which was an improvement if I recall over last year. We also had significantly less significant efficiencies this year. We had 3, I think it was a good many more than that last year. Always a little more in the first year when a new auditor comes in, just looking at different things. And plus, as I mentioned earlier, as a firm, we are big on controls and processes and policies, procedures, those sorts of things. So a little bit of an eye-opener sometimes when we, not knocking any other firms, but we do spend a little more time here on processes than others. But the good news is our words and what we recommended was taken serious, and some of these things were corrected. So as you can see there, you had reduced findings, we'll call them, and so to speak. All right, report on compliance internal controls of our major programs. So this is the third product here in this report that is ours as your auditor. Because the county expended more than $750,000 in federal funds, which they have done over the last year or so and probably will so for the next few years. I'm doing a lot of these, what we call single audits, because of the influx of federal funds throughout the state, throughout the nation, really, as far as that goes. But I'm pleased to present that for 2022, we had no material weaknesses, no significant efficiencies, and no material noncompliance in relation to those federal award programs and that federal compliance testing we performed. That letter is found on pages 97 through 100. All right, and I can move pretty quick through these next two things. I talked to you about this GASB 87 at pretty good length a few months ago, but this one was required. It's with current reporting change. It was required to be implemented during 2022. We did evaluate this, all the leases that you all had. There were some leases, however, the implementation of this was not material. If I recall, I don't think we recorded any leases. I'm trying to remember. Sorry, I've implemented so many of these over the last 2 months that I really don't even want to see another lease agreement, just to be honest with you. We've looked at many of them. There was no implementation, so we did implement 87. However, the effect was not significant for the county. Now, with that being said, I'll talk about it here in a minute, but GASB 96 is required to be implemented during 2023. So what that one is going to be SBITAs, which is subscription-based information technology arrangements. And so what those are is software, information technology type things that you purchase on a subscription basis, monthly, quarterly, annually, that of course have a contract in place there. So like 87 with the leases, we will have to evaluate materiality and that sort of thing. The kind of hang up there is we did have a few leases that we passed on that were immaterial to the whole reporting of the county, But now we'll have to evaluate 96. Those might be as well immaterial, but we also have to evaluate them together because we're talking about a liability and a right to use asset here, so, or a subscription asset. So they're the same type of, matter of fact, you account for them almost identically. So what that means is, while leases might have been immaterial, subitas might be immaterial, but them together in the aggregate could be material. So it may require some recording there in that regard. So, or we could just have some material subitas as well. So that will be implemented during 2023 fiscal year. The good news is our training wheels are off a little bit. Like I mentioned, I've looked at I don't know how many lease agreements over the last 6 months to a year. So we're more familiar with the process. This was a big standard. 87 was a big standard. So 96 is real similar. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. I will say there are 2 letters there with you. Not going to go through them simply because one of them is some required communication. So I am required to communicate these items to you all. The letter that says significant audit matters there. The letter used to say significant audit findings. I'm glad they changed that wording for us. But this is all mostly boilerplate information. The only significant change is there is 87 was implemented. That's noted in here. But this is all, everything that's in this letter other than changing dates is pretty much what was in there last year. But it is required communication, so please do take a look at it. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions at all that you all have.
Questions of the board? Okay.
I do have a question. Sure. So, Mr. Pilgrim, on page 5, under general fund, under revenues, at the very last item, other revenues increased, and then in parentheses, insurance proceeds. What's that referring to?
Fairly certain, I could look for sure, but I'm fairly certain that was insurance proceeds on some building roof replacements throughout the county. If I recall, that's what
We
that.
have some claims, hail damage on roofs.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, but we do need to receive a motion and a second to receive the report officially by this board. So do we have a motion to receive the report?
Motion to receive.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Blakemore. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Stoltz. Any further questions, concerns for the auditor? Hearing none, all in favor to receive the report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Clay.
Thank you all. If you need anything, just let us know.
Will do. Thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to ask Chief Hodge to come up at this time, and he's going to give a presentation regarding our fire department.
Good evening. I'm gonna turn a little bit so I can see. So thank you for giving me the time. I apologize in advance. It's gonna take me a minute to get through this. It's pretty lengthy, a lot of information in a short period of time. But I feel like it'll be valuable for everyone watching, everyone here to understand where your fire department service delivery is relative to the public safety fee, which is our revenue vehicle primarily, which is up for discussion later in the meeting. But I want to go through some things and answer any questions you have. And as always, if you don't feel like asking questions here today or those watching, you can call the fire department and set up a meeting or give me a call on the phone. Be glad to meet with you. So a little bit about Walker County Fire Rescue. Walker County Fire Rescue is an all-hazard response organization. We have a total of 18 fire stations, 85 personnel, that's including 60 career staff, 15 volunteer firefighters, and 10 part-time firefighters. Daily, we have 18 career firefighters and up to 15 volunteer firefighters, if available, protecting a population of 68,900 citizens, 446 square miles of coverage area, 22,860 residential homes, 482 commercial buildings, 21 industrial buildings, 674 miles of roads, and the traveling public. That's a lot for 18 firefighters and then having the assistance of 15 volunteers. In 2022, Walker County Fire Rescue responded to over 6,000 calls for service. I'm going to break these down a little bit for you to give you an idea. We responded to 242 fire-related calls. This could be structure fires, rubbish fires, woodland fires, vehicle fires, 242 fire-related calls. We responded to 3,276 EMS or medical-related calls. 693 lift assist. The lift assist is when we have someone who calls 911 and their family member needs help getting out of the floor, back to their bed. I get more compliments on our firefighters probably about every other week from citizens calling in thanking us for doing the lift assist. This also prevents ambulances from being out of service longer, which is our transport units for people needing medical assistance to hospitals. 876 illegal burns, 241 electrical calls, 247 alarm activations through alarm systems, 162 public service requests, 201 roadways blocked, which is our tree down calls, which also keeps our road department from getting called just about every day and paying overtime to clear roadways in the county. We're responsible. We also take it upon ourselves to help DOT in the state because of their travel time coming to our state routes where we don't tie up law enforcement and cause accidents because we've got trees down around curves. And then there's other miscellaneous calls. Walker County Fire Rescue is responsible for 23 pumpers, 2 ladder trucks, 10 quick response vehicles, 8 rescue trucks, 12 command units, 3 ATVs, 2 rescue boats, a regional foam trailer, and 1 heavy technical rescue unit. We have 8 personnel that's currently assigned to the Georgia Search and Rescue Team that's attached to Task Force 6 regionally in the state. They're trained in rope rescue, confined space, trench rescue, and structural collapse rescue. We have a cave and cliff rescue team with 19 personnel that volunteer. They're experts in their field. The Fire Marshal's Office consists of the Fire Marshal and 2 investigators and inspectors responsible for community risk reduction, fire inspections, which are estimated 660 annual initial inspections, and then roughly 60% of those have follow-ups. The fire investigations, they investigate an average of about 100 annually. Plan review to include permitting for new construction, public education from CPR to fire life safety education, our smoke alarm program, an accelerant detection team to include the fire marshal, who's the handler, and the K9 dozer. To my knowledge, this is still the only fire department certified accelerant detection team north of Atlanta. Our firefighters are responsible for a lot of duties, but I think there's a big misconception that they sit around and just run calls, which is actually a small part of their day. So we have a lot of ISO responsibilities, and I'll get into ISO in just a little bit, but it's the Insurance Service Office. We have annual duties that are performed every day. The firefighters do pre-incident planning, over 900 a year. They do hydrant maintenance on 1,440 hydrants each year. They do water main testing for 9 water authorities. This is done each year. Hose testing, over 52,000 feet or 9.9 miles of fire hose that they test every year. Assisting with public education and events, it's required that they have a minimum of 228 hours of training for ISO, which they go above and beyond. There's professional development programs in place for driver operators and officer training. Incident reporting, we have our internal SCBA maintenance program within the organization. Of course, responding to calls for service, utilizing response and incident operational guidelines regarding incident command and fireground functions. And some of their miscellaneous daily duties, they have daily cleaning of the fire stations, apparatus cleaning, apparatus equipment accountability program, repairs. Our firefighters are talented beyond their ability to fight fire. We have performed construction and upgrades to our fire stations. We've framed walls, we've put sheetrock up, we've finished it, we've painted, we've done the trim, trying to save in our budget and the county money in that respect. Multiple miscellaneous assignments that we put on them each and every day. This is just a brief overview of some of the things that they do. So I mentioned ISO. So what is ISO? ISO is the Insurance Service Office. Insurance company utilizes the Insurance Service Office to establish a classification So they can provide you with your quotes and your insurance premiums of what you're going to pay for your insurance on residential and commercial businesses and industrial businesses. So there's a public protection classification rating 1 through 10. 1 is the best. 10 is unprotected. So your insurance premiums, if you'll envision it in your mind, if you're a 1, you're going to pay lower for your insurance premium or get a lower quote than you would if you're a 10 unprotected. The current classification for Walker County is a 3/3Y. It's a split rating. To get the 3, you have to live within 5 miles of a fire station and within 1,000 feet from the physical part of your house to the fire hydrant. You'll get a 3. The 3Y means that you live within 5 miles of a fire station, yet you're over 1,000 feet from a fire hydrant, and you get the 3Y. We proved during our ISO evaluation that we will maintain a certain amount of water on a fire based on our response and what water we carry to get the 3Y. There are less than 3,500 communities nationwide that are classified as a 3. This is out of 43,094 total communities in 2019. The way ISO breaks down the credit score, the credit or scores, the fire department's value is worth 50 points. The water authorities combined to make up 40 points. The 911 center is valued at 10 points. And then for community risk reduction, there's available 5.5 bonus points. Now, we were evaluated in 2013 and then again in 19. The 19 evaluation that I'm fixing to talk about, the structure is totally different than it was in 13. It made it a little more difficult for rural departments because of deployment analysis, which is response times. So our score in 2019 was a 70.22. That means by 0.23 of a point, we maintained our ISO 3. So we're on the fence. And depending on what they give us a batch list of businesses that they want to know needed fire flow on. We don't get that until right before the evaluation. So however, whatever they choose to give us and provide to us, it may change. It may fluctuate with our needed fire flow. We're really close on personnel to where that may affect it. So we need to make improvements to the fire department to maintain the 3, in my opinion. It's up to the community. It's your fire department through the leadership of this board, whether you want to maintain, move forward, or even regress. So, but the 2019 evaluation, the 911 center, and it has for 3 evaluations that I'm aware of, received 10 out of 10 points. The fire department received 27.76 out of 50 points. The water authorities, all 9, 10 if you count. We have a industry that has their own water source that we do turn in on ISO. So there's actually 10 for the evaluation. But they received 32.59 out of 40 points. And then our fire marshal's office, with the community risk reduction, which this is a really good number, they received 5.06 out of 5.5 points in 2019. So think about this like an analogy would be you're in school and you're taking a test. You have a 100%. We're going to look at percentages. You can make a 100 on your test. The 911 center made 100. The water authorities made an 81. The community risk reduction in the fire marshal's office made a 92. But the fire department made a 56. Now this is, the way this breaks down when I start talking about this is, I'm going to keep it simple. It really takes a lot. When I start talking about points and half points and credits, it takes a lot to to dive down in the weeds with this to really figure it out. But I'm going to go through the fire department and explain to you a little bit about ISO. They give you credit for engine companies. You get 6 points. We had 6 out of 6. We have enough engine companies to support what the need in the county. Credit for reserve pumpers, they give you half a point now. We got credit for half a point. We have enough reserve pumpers. Pump capacity, which is the needed fire flow and what your fire trucks are able to pump, we get a 3 out of 3. Credit for ladder service, we get 1.41 out of 4. We went back and forth with ISO of what was best for our organization. We respond to ladder on all structure and business fires, but we can't afford to pay $1.5 million for 2 and 3 more ladder trucks. And when you add that truck, it adds 6 personnel to the total. So we had rather take this deduction here. We do have a ladder and a reserve, but we'd rather not have to buy more ladders, take more credit on a bigger knock on the personnel. So this is with a choice. I'm not advocating for more ladder trucks in the county currently. Credit for reserve ladders, we get 0.5. We got half a point, and you can only get half a point. Credit for deployment analysis. They moved this basically from 4 to 10 credits. This is where it hurts a rural department that's 446 square miles. We got 2.44. This is basically response times. So when you think about how far we have to travel, with 18 fire stations, we only have 7 career. When volunteers don't respond from their stations, we're going through sometimes across 2 territories to arrive at the call. And we're as spread out as we can be based on our call volume. So we take a big hit there. Credit for company personnel, 15 total available points, we get 4.15. This is the big hit for us. Now, what's it take to get 15? I told you we had 60 career firefighters. 54 of those are 24-hour shift personnel. To get that 15 points, we would need 348 firefighters. We have 54. It's not a reality for Walker County. Okay? The fire chief's not trying to get 348 personnel or even close to it. I am simply, the goal for me is to try to shore this up to maintain for the citizens and the business owners this ISO 3. So, credit for training, 9 possible points, we get 7.76. The only reason we get 7.76 is it's just about impossible for volunteers to maintain the required training hours that the career staff has to have. The volunteers, we offer a little less than 100 hours a year, and that's every Monday night, 2 hours a week. And they do their best to get to those. So we're not going to, we increase requirements on that, we're not going to have any. It's just too hard for them to get there. I'm looking at a way to do it online and going to approach to see if the volunteers are willing. That's a possibility, but I'm going to leave it up to them. Then you get credit for operational considerations, which is your standard operating guidelines and procedures. We get 2 out of 2 points. So when you look at that 27.76 out of 50 points for the fire department, it's personnel, which affects deployment analysis. So we've got a 70.22. We're looking at making sure we shore that up. But that gives a little background on ISO and a little brief description of kind of where that stands. So let's talk about the state of Georgia. The state of Georgia requires, through the Georgia Firefighter Standards of Training Council and the Code of Georgia and Title 25, that we have to be a compliant fire department and have compliant fire stations. We have to have 4 firefighters per station. Now that doesn't mean they're at that station. They look at an overall register of people that are on there. We have to put them on their website. They have to be certified. They have to be trained to do so. So we're hovering around that between 80 and 85. We have 4 openings today. So when I tell you we have 60, we have, according to standards of training, we have 56 with 4 openings. So we're real close we've got ISO on one side and we're barely there with personnel. And then we're starting to get really close to that minimum number with the state of Georgia. What happens if we fall below 72 and they come to evaluate us to give us our compliance letter? They ask us which fire station we're going to close. And obviously, we don't want to do When we do that, then ISO comes in, anybody in that area is gonna go to unprotected class of 10, and their insurance will quadruple. And they won't have fire protection in that area. So, that's the state of Georgia. So, the history of the public safety fee. Chairman Whitfield started in office in January of 17. He hired me in January of 17. We came into an existing fire fee, it was called at that time, and it was $130 across the board. When I'm speaking residentially, it was $130 across the board. You live in an 800 square foot house, you live in a 5,000 square foot house, you paid $130. There was, my understanding, I don't want to speak for you, but my understanding is there was when there was, during the campaign, there was a lot of conversation of that not being equitable to all citizens and homeowners, that there was a lot of questions of why you're paying, everybody paid $130. So he tasked me with attempting to come up with a solution that may benefit and come up with an equitable system. So did some research, was at a previous department that mainly did this with industrial, but we come together on looking at a system that now you know is the public safety fee. It's based on square footage, it has minimums and maximums, and it is what we feel like it's equitable, and that we had 48%, when we implemented this, we went to 10 cents a square foot, minimum was $90, and the maximum on residential was $400. That goes for agriculture, pre-built mobile homes, non-pre-built mobile homes, and residential homes. So when we implemented this, 48% of the fee for 48% of the homeowners, the fee went down. And then, of course, 52% went up. But, and I'm just going to be honest, when you own or buy a bigger home, it is a choice, but you're going to pay more for power, water, homeowners insurance. I mean, I don't know anything that's not going to be more expensive that the bigger home you get. So we honestly, we had a couple of phone calls. I probably fielded less than 30 phone calls in the last 6 years. Now, the tax assessor's office, who has been wonderful working with me and getting the numbers as accurate as we can, but half of those phone calls were elderly individuals that just heard there's going to be a new fee, and they thought theirs was going up, and they couldn't afford it. But that when I actually looked them up, they actually went down. And then we had a couple of commercial concerns, and it's a little different on the commercial side, or a lot different than it was before. We actually had industrial businesses and hazardous material industrial complexes that were paying a few $100s a year, while homeowners were paying more. So when we talk about, so we implemented that in 2017, and it has not been increased in 6 years. Nothing in my life that I can think of has not increased in 6 years, especially the last couple of years. As we move forward tonight, we're talking about having to put this increase. The question is, why hasn't it increased? There's been inflation. There's been 5% inflation average in Georgia every year. So why hasn't it increased? Well, having what I feel like was good business sense in 2017, we based the public safety fee on a projection. The billable is this dollar amount, and then we're going to project, so we meet the budget, a certain percentage, hypothetically 95%. What we found was that this public safety fee or what I found through the tax commissioner's office, is it's continuously collected. It's collected nonstop. We had so many people that were paying back payments on it that it created a fund balance. So one really good thing about the public safety fee is that the money coming in doesn't go in the general fund. It goes into what you and I would know as a savings account. It's a fund balance. It's documented. And I think over the years between what it collected more than we anticipated at 99 and 100%, and the fact that we were able to save some years, even if it's $50,000 or $100,000, it built a fund balance, and I think that fund balance got up to 600 and something thousand at one time. So, if you will, a savings account with 600 and something $1,000 in it. And so as inflation, as it does every year, is up and down, but as inflation came about, and we opened, I'm gonna go over some of this in a minute, but we opened fire stations, we added some firefighters. We were able to offset and not raise the public safety fee because we used the savings account. About 2 years ago, the savings account dried up. But we had some grant money. We had some available, to my understanding, we had some available general fund money that we supplemented to hold off on raising the public safety fee. But we have arrived at the time, 6 years later, that we do need to make an increase. If the community, through the Board of Commissioners, wants to keep the fire service that you have today. So, it's not what the fire chief wants. I'm trying to keep it steady. So due to the fund balance, grant money, and the ability to use or basically taken away from the general fund from something else, coupled with the inflation, it's time. So we had a couple years ago, three or 4 years ago, actually, we had individual ask us about why do we not use millage? Why do we not put it into property taxes? So it's a good question, right? I mean, thought it was valid, so we didn't ignore it. We went to the tax assessor's office, and again, they worked with us really well, and we looked at what success would look like if we put it back into the millage. Maybe we have it wrong, right? Maybe we're doing something that we don't need to do, and we looked at it. When we looked at it, it was going to cost some key important information is 88% of this budget comes on the residential homeowner. 88% of it falls on the residential homeowner. So when we looked at it, though, years ago, it was going to cost the homeowner, on average, more if it was in county taxes and millage than it did as the public safety fee. So we didn't think it was a good idea. So we fast forward to our values on our homes just drastically increasing. I think mine's up over 60%. It's incredible. While commercial and industrial property is going down every year. So, however, we thought, value goes up, millage comes down, commissioners roll back millage, try to keep everybody the same. And so we thought we'd look at it again. And just in case anything was different, trying to do our due diligence. And everybody's got their own opinion. You may want it in millage. You may be happy with the public safety people. I don't know anybody that wants to pay more. No, I don't think anybody wants to pay more than they want, more than their part of their taxes or their fire fee. But the money's got to come from somewhere. So when we look at this increase, it's the proposed is for residential is $125 minimum and $600 maximum. The average size home in Walker County is 1,500 square feet. It's actually 1,506, but for round numbers, we're calling it 1,500 square feet. So when we look at, and one question that gets brought up is how do we account for our millage? When I talk about the millage rate that I'm talking about pulling the fire department out separate. There are counties in Georgia that actually show that separate when they do millage, so they can show what their public safety fee cost separate from their other county tax dollars. So when you take the total net digest, when you take the fire department requested budget and you divide it by the total net digest of $1.263 billion, you get a 0.0043028363 or 43 millage rate, just under 4.5 mills, just for the fire department budget. This is not lumped in. So then we go back and we look at the average square foot home is 1,500 square feet. Currently they're paying, that home is paying $150. The new number with the 14, and we're going up to 14 cents a square foot is proposed. The 14 cents a square foot, and let's go ahead and get this out of the way, that's 40%. It's 40%. But that number is now $210. The average value of a home in Walker County is $175,000. It's taxed at 40% of that, which is $70,000. You multiply that times the millage rate for that same home, then the millage, or if it was on their property taxes, would be $301. 91 additional dollars, or an increase over what the public safety fee is calling for at $210. So, and then as your value increases over that 175, it just gets greater and greater and greater and greater for what you pay. So, it is different for commercial and industrial, because if the burden of the budget lies on the residential rooftops in this county, nearly 23,000 of them. So, when we start talking about square footage, or if I went to value commercial and industrial on millage, what they're gonna pay for the public safety fee is less than homeowners. So, it's not for me to just ultimately decide if it's equitable. I have my opinion, but it's the community's decision to decide it through their board of commissioners. So when we start talking about that average home, we're talking about an increase of $5 a month. $5 a month. I'm not going to name the establishment, but I used to get a cup of coffee for 99 cents every morning, and that's almost $2 every day. It's nearly $2. $1.79 plus tax, maybe. $5 a month. And it's not increased in 6 years. So, I just don't know, or maybe I challenge you to educate me on what hasn't increased, whatever that is, 80-something cents a year, a month, a year, per year for 6 years. I don't know what hasn't. But the county government and the fire department are affected by inflation, no different than we are I'm a citizen and a taxpayer as well. But we're the county government, it's affected the same way, but we do, and we're often expected, and we're expected to make cuts because we're trying to do what's best for everybody. But it does affect our operation and our budget and our ability to serve, which is what we do. So as we consider the increase on the public safety fee, there's a couple of other things that I wanted to mention. Go back and remember I told you in 2016 that the cost across the board was $130. All right. We have 22,860 residential rooftops. That's homes, mobile homes. It's residential properties, rooftops, I call it. 45% of those today, if this gets approved and if this is implemented, 10,275 of nearly 23,000, 22,860, 45%, will just now be going back to paying what they were paying in 2016. 10,275 will be going, will now be arriving back at what they were paying in 2016. The other 12,500 or so, it's going to be going up a little bit. That's the truth. But when we start talking about equitable and value versus what people can afford with square footage and smaller homes, and I don't personally think it's a bad program. It's not perfect. We've made some adjustments, especially with the commercial side of it. But I do think that the Board of Commissioners and the tax assessor's office and myself and several people at the fire department that have been helping me with some of the things that I've been doing with this, I think we've got at least a good baseline to see that we're considering the right thing. Because if we go with, and there's probably other options, but I'm just comparing it against millage. So that would be for the board to decide through the community. So I want to talk. Let me go through the new. You want me to go through the fees now, or do you want to talk about it when you go to it? Okay. So I mentioned all square footage is going to go from 10 cents to 14 cents. The minimum fees on residential to include agriculture, pre-built mobile homes, non-pre-built mobile homes, and all your real properties will be going to 14 cents. A minimum from $90 to $125. The maximum from $400 to $600. The commercial will be going to 14 cents, the minimum from 400 to 500, and then the maximum was 3,000. It's coming down to 2,500. So people are like, why would you come down on, you didn't come down on residential, why are you coming down on commercial? Well, we did have several commercial property owners that discussed that were paying more for their fire fee than they were for their insurance. Now, again, that may be relative to what kind of coverage you have, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to outrun somebody's insurance coverage with the public safety fee. So, industrial is 14 cents a square foot. The minimum is going to $1,750 from $1,500. The maximum from $15,000 to $20,000. So I'm going to close you get rid of me in just a second. But I want to close with giving you some numbers from 2016, which was prior to the public safety fee. It was with the fire fee. This is prior to 17 when we started this. So a few things. What have we done over 6 years? We immediately went from 3 fire stations to 6 fire stations with the same number of personnel to provide better coverage. Because again, we're trying to get better response times. Irreversible brain death, 4 to 6 minutes. A fire doubles in size every minute. We're trying to, our greatest enemy is time. So we're trying to overcome time. So in 2016, I'm going to read some comparisons here to where your fire department was in 2016 and where it is today. Because again, over the years, we added 12 personnel. We spread out. We opened Station 7 in Fairview. We've got that minimum staffing of 3. It's the only station that has 3 personnel assigned daily. It's also our busiest territory. We also have several automatic aid agreements that have been put in place in 6 years, which you'll see the numbers in a second. But there's a lot going on, and again, what are they doing when they're not running calls? Well, they're keeping your insurance premiums at a really an all-time low for as big a county as we are. So, and they're doing it for $15.18 an hour. So, for pay. So in 2016, there were the estimated dollar loss was $6,400,000. I'm going to use round numbers, okay? If you want the exact report, I can get you a copy. The fire loss was $6,400,000. The estimated value was $10,800,000. That's a 41% property percentage saved. So you have a total value, you have fires at these places, and you have percentage saved, 41%. In 2022, we had dollar loss of 2.4 million and an estimated value of 6.8, and we saved 64%, a 23% increase of property saved. Why is that? Because fire didn't double in size, basically, because our response times were better, which is where I'm headed next. So we have a thing called turnout time. We pride ourselves currently on when the firefighters hear the page go out, get the call for service, that starts the clock. The turnout time is from that point till the truck is moving. In 2016, the average turnout time was 4 minutes and 32 seconds. Last year, the average turnout time was 1 minute 53 seconds. In 2016, the average response time was 14 minutes and 44 seconds. In 2022, the average response time is 9 minutes and 15 seconds. Total aid given in 2016, automatic or mutual aid, 18 calls. Total aid received from other entities, 14. In 2022, total aid given, 122. Total aid received, 182. That's because of our automatic aid agreements with Catoosa County, Whitfield County, several other departments around, but those are the bigger ones. So when we talked about and when you guys approved automatic aid, we often look at what reciprocates, proofs in the numbers. They're getting help, we're getting help. So when you look at, they responded to 3,452 calls. We responded to 6,090. They were not running certain difficulty breathing, certain cardiac calls. We saw that immediate need to improve that. We immediately started working on we're now a licensed first responder agency through the state of Georgia. We're EMT trained, and we're going to be here in a couple of weeks, or in a few weeks, recognizing a couple of firefighters for saving the life of a baby at a breech delivery. So that's going to be something I'm looking forward to. But we're not going to put out every fire. We're not going to save every life, but we are doing our best with what we have to work with. So I just thought some of these numbers, the lift assist that they did 199, and again we're at nearly 700. So when we talk about the fire department and we talk about the budget, I get it, it's an increase, but you just have to ask yourself what the value is if you go backwards, because here's a little analogy. We have our 1,500 square foot home. Right, that's our average size home. Today, not the increase, but today at 10 cents a square foot, you're paying $12.50 a month for that 1,500 square foot. $12.50. And then, depending on who you have for insurance, but I'm using round numbers, and I think everybody will understand based on value, that's about $1,200 for insurance for that home in a year. So $100 a month. You're paying $12.50 to pay $100 and you're getting this service, which is way better than it was 6 years ago. Now, hypothetically, you say, I cut the fire department in half, it's too much money. All right, so we're gonna go to $6.25. We're gonna cut the service in half. Our response time is gonna go back to 16 minutes, irreversible brain death in 4 to 6 minutes, fire doubling in size, property loss. We're gonna pay $6.25, and then our insurance, because our ISO rating is gonna go up, we're liable to pay $200, $250. So you really want to save $6.25, go down in service and pay $100 and something more? Because you're either going to pay the insurance company or you're going to put it into your fire department. That's going to happen. It's going to happen. So it's not my fire department. It's your fire department through the Board of Commissioners. I will manage to the best of my ability whatever is decided. If we regress, if we don't want to move forward, if we stay at 7 staff stations for the next 20 years. It's whatever everybody wants, but I think it needs to make sense. And it doesn't make sense to drop your ISO rating when we're right there on the, I'm not sitting here telling you we need to go to ISO 2. I'm not saying that's anywhere remotely near future till our population doubles. But I am suggesting that you get that 70 to a 72. So I thank you for your time. Please call me, set up a meeting. I'll be glad to do whatever I need to do. You guys got any questions for me?
I do. We can be brief. What was the ISO rating in the county in 2017?
A 3.
So it's been a 3 since then?
Yes, sir.
So the entire county now is a 3 or a 3Y?
With the exception of, there are a couple of places, Rocky Lane, at the county line, Gordon County line, down back that side, and then up where Macklemore is unprotected 10.
Really? Okay.
Because they're 9.5 miles
Okay.
away. But that's soon to be, covered there.
Right. How often are we reevaluating on ISO?
Every 4 years.
Every 4 years.
Which is, they did call and say we're going to get evaluated in November, so that's on par for the 4-year mark.
My last question is, what is the ISO of the surrounding counties, mainly Catoosa County?
Catoosa is, if I'm not mistaken, they're ISO 3 as well.
They're 3 as well. Chattooga?
Chattooga and Dade have different fire departments. So I'm not sure in Chattooga how many stations they have. I think Dade's got 7, so there's 7 different evaluations going on there.
Okay. So, Catoosa's a 3 also? Yeah.
Yes.
And their fire department is about the same size as far as personnel?
No, sir. So they have a total of 9 fire stations.
Okay.
They staff 7 of them with minimum of 3 every day.
Okay.
We're double that at 18. We staff 7 with mainly 2. We got 1 fire station with 3.
Okay.
So
Square miles are probably, about half?
I would think half, yeah.
I don't want to get into what Catoosa.
Yeah, well, I just.
But I mean, we're roughly the same. I think they just got evaluated. They could potentially be looking at maybe a 2. It depends on their 911.
Because they're more densely populated.
Correct. Yeah, we're spread out. We're not going to, our deployment analysis, which is those response times, 9 minutes is pretty good.
Yeah. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Question.
Yes, sir.
So I think you mentioned 200 plus training hours for each full-time firefighter, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's yearly.
228 for ISO. Now, we have professional development. Our firefighters got over 20,000 training hours last year.
Okay.
Divide that by 60, whatever that is, 300 and something hours
Okay.
apiece.
Okay. On your medical calls, your lift assist are separate from that, correct? That's a separate category.
Yes, sir.
So 3,276 medical calls. And that's everything from MVAs to sick calls to,
Medical alarms.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll give you some, the way it's coded in here, medical assist, EMS crew, emergency medical service, other, which would be something just off, it's a catch-all right there, but We try not to use it. EMS call excluding vehicle accident with injury, motor vehicle accident with injury, motor vehicle versus pedestrian. We had 11 of those in the county. Motor vehicle accident, no injuries, extrications, anything you could, but the chief complaint, if you will, just falls under medical.
Yes.
So we can drill down into that through the CAD, but not fire report.
Okay. And with regard to staffing, does every firefighter have EMT certification?
They have to, within 30 months of hire,
Okay. How many paramedics do we have?
about 7,
Okay. Okay.
including me, which no, it's not. I mean, I'm
You're a paramedic?
not as good as I once was, but
I bet you are. Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
Chief, one thing, if you
Yes,
don't
sir.
mind, I'd like a copy of your presentation, not this moment, but
Okay.
just if you would,
I'll probably clean it up a little better for you.
No, I like it just like it was. This was, the information, was very eye-opening. I hope it has been to everybody else, because it sure has been to me. I had a pretty good understanding, but I have a whole lot different view, now, looking at the numbers and talking about, just like what you were talking about, the irreversible brain damage and the time frames on the response call. I mean, you're talking about multitudes of possibilities of changing lives, and saving. So I just would like to, if you don't mind, before you discard any of that or anything,
Sure.
I'd like to get a copy of that just for my files.
Yes, sir.
An excellent job
Thank you.
on the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief, questions? Thank you, Chief. Okay, on our agenda, the next item that we have is our time for our public comment. If there's anyone that would like to come forward and make a public comment, we do ask you to limit your comments to 5 minutes, and we ask that you talk about things maybe we can make a difference or help you with. We can't solve all the national or international problems out there. So is anybody that'd like to come speak tonight? Yes, sir. Please come forward. And we ask you, once you start, if you'd state your name for the record, please, sir.
Nelson Huffman. I live over in Fairview, and I've been here. I didn't come last year because I had back and hip surgery. But I have some property next to me that I'm trying to get cleaned up and can't get it done. I've talked to you a couple of times. Last time I saw you was at the library. You had coming out of a meeting. I called Mr. Brown's office. The first time this year I talked to them, the lady said, well, okay, we'll work on it. Well, I called back about 6 weeks later, and she said, well, you have to give them time. Well, I've lived there for 16 years. Nobody's lived in these 2 mobile homes for the last 10 years. Sheila Quinn's daddy transferred the property out of his name to her for $500, 2 lots. But he left the 2 mobile homes in his name because there's over $1,600 worth of property taxes owed on them. You're not collecting his taxes. And this was 3 years ago, but it was $1,600, and nobody's collecting these taxes. And that would have to be fireman out right there.
What's the address of those properties?
8 Ivy Street, their address is 6 Ivy.
6 Ivy?
Yeah, I've called your station, and I've called your cell phone several times, and voicemail's always full.
Yeah, after this meeting, if you can hang around with me for just a few minutes, I'll pull my computer up and we'll look into the database and we'll pull those case files up and look
Yeah,
at
I've
those.
got videos of the 2 mobile homes, the double wide. The old single wide's in better shape than the double wide. The French doors, they've kicked those in. They come over there and they spend the night. They come in at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. There's no power, no water, hasn't been for years. They spend the night, cars in and out all night long. Last year, I had to call the fire department twice because they started a bonfire. I went over and beat on the door, and the guy just said, well, I was asleep. And I said, you got a fire going out here. I said, hell, you burn my place down. And, I called the fire department twice. Nobody wants to do anything. Drug task force, I've talked to them, and the man in charge of drug task force, he said, well, I'm working other cases. He said, call me. I said, but they're not here. They come in and they stay 5 minutes and they're out again.
Are they living on the property?
Well, starting in warm weather, they'll start spending one or two nights over there, but there's no water,
No utility?
no utilities. But, you know, they're dealing drugs is what they're doing. None of them ever works.
Yeah.
None of them.
Yeah. If you can see me just right after me, and I'll pull my computer, I've got it here, we'll look those up and see the status
Thank
of
you.
those. Thank you very much. Anyone else that'd like to speak tonight? Yes, sir, please come forward.
My name's Ron Litz, kind of new kid up here, looking for ways to invest in the county and do things. I'd like to learn more about the liquor licenses you guys are going to be offering and the county's position on small homes, tiny homes, 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet, and multi-development.
Yes, we did, or the citizens did vote last November to pass the liquor sales. Our team's been working on a draft ordinance that will be forthcoming to
I've
this
been
board.
attending those too.
At the beverage meetings, yeah.
Yeah.
So they've been giving us some good feedback. So we've got a draft resolution or draft ordinance that this board will be looking at that will be advertised. We'll have 2 public hearings on that for public comments. So that's forthcoming in the near future. Our tiny home policy, this board did pass a tiny home policy, I guess, a year or so ago?
Yes.
And so that's in our code of ordinance that can be found on our website.
Can do that.
And it outlines those requirements, minimum square footages and so forth. So that's available to download or print, whatever you'd like.
Do you have a criteria you're going to follow for establishing who's going to end up with the liquor license?
Well, that's to be determined by the board. We're not totally sure. I mean, we have to follow the state, minimum requirements for sure, but that has not been determined. But that's in motion.
Thank you. Last thing on my time, the chief's done a phenomenal job.
Yes, very much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you.
I live across from the Fairview Station, and those guys stay busy all the time.
Yeah, that's, you're talking about the Fairview Station. That was the last station that we made as a full-time station, and it is the highest call volume station now in our system. And it's going to probably even continue as the growth on the north end of the community. So good points. Okay, next item here, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I did not see you. Yes, sir, come on up, please. Yes, please state your name for the record.
Gary Williams. The whole county is under a special tax district, which this fire fee comes under. And the unincorporated foots most of the bill. So I think, and I believe last year, the public safety fee brought in roughly $4 million. But last year, the fire trucks that was purchased was from the splosh money and from the COVID relief money. So you got $4 million there for other purposes. This was from the 2020 audit. Transfers to and from funds. Transfers to from other funds for the year ended September 30th, 2020 consists of the following. It's got some of them here, but one of it says the Fire and Rescue Fund to the General Fund, $1,117,032. That was from the Fire and Rescue Fund. Y'all can look at it. I mean, so you transferred Fire and Rescue funds over to the General Fund.
That's what I'm sure that was. I'm not sure. I know this year on the audit that they just gave us, we had to transfer, I believe it was $942,000 out of the general fund into the fire department to cover the expenses. So I'm not sure on this if there was money owed back to the rescue or not. I can find that answer out and
I was
get you
just
that
saying that there's
information.
the public safety fee was transferred to the General Fund. Is that not what it's saying? 1.1 million roughly?
That is true.
Okay.
And, I'll have to find out what that is, but I can get that information and get you the detail on that.
I mean, that's 40% is a good increase in the fire fee. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Didn't mean to miss him a while ago. Anyone else wanted to speak? Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move next on our resolution under our new business, Resolution R-018-23, a resolution of the Walker County Board of Commissioners to approve a list of roads for resurfacing in 2023. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of Walker County, the board is the governing authority of Walker County, Georgia, and whereas Section 11, Item 7 of the Enabling Act grants the board of the authority to repair public roads and bridges, and whereas the board has the need for several roads to be resurfaced or paved, therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Walker County, Georgia, that the 2023 road resurfacing list attached hereto marked Exhibit A is hereby approved. Be it further resolved that the board directs the county's procurement staff to move forward with a request for proposal for the roads for 2023 list by May 1st. So resolved the 13th day of April 2023. So actually what that last line is saying, we will put this out for bid. There is a requirement by the state to put out road paving projects for bid, and that's done through a state procurement site. So every paving contractor in the state's notified through that site that there is a bid opportunity in Walker County to bid on this. In the past, we've been having 4 to 5 companies bid on this every year. Once those bids come in, and the staff reviews those, and our attorney reviews those for compliance and insurance and those type of things, then those bids and the recommendation will come back to this board for approval for the selection of the vendor to execute this work. So this is just tonight approving the scope of work, as we would call it. Just approving this is what we're going to do, but we're not sure who's going to do it.
One question, and very simple. So our scope of work, we pass this as our scope of work, and then we get our bids. Now, if time lapses in this year, but we've already approved these, then it would roll over into the spring of.
Yes.
I'm just wanting to make sure that.
No, that's a great question, because we've got 2 roads that's happened to us this last year.
Right. So it just rolled over.
Because we had culvert replacements and repairs on West Cove Road.
Right.
And then we had delays due to the race, and then
Yep.
we had the landslide up on the Switchback Road.
Right.
And so those projects didn't get finished before we run out of good weather time. So those projects have already been approved. So additional to this list would be West Cove Road, down through Mountain Cove, all the way up to Highway 157. And that is going to be done by Tally Construction because they were awarded that.
And that would probably be the first thing that would be finished would be the last year's business before we started it, or I don't know. How's that, Carlin?
Yeah,
how's that work?
I guess that's going to determine if the same contractor,
Okay.
gets the bid or not, and scheduling and all. But yeah, I would love to get those done as quickly as possible to get those closed out. On this here, there is a typo, and I didn't realize this till earlier today, but the typo's in the very first one, and that's Tate Road. It says from Highway 27 to Old Highway 27. That's incorrect.
It don't.
That's over in Villanelle, which is correct, but that's South Dick Creek Road over to Concord Road. So that's just a typo of just the description of location. But Tate Road is one of our roads that is what I called an undeveloped, unpaved road. I think in years past, maybe there'd been some chip sealing put down, but that road is basically a gravel road today. And so that's one, and I've tried to prioritize these 2 because that's one, in some of those roads around there, you'll see also number 6, Shorty Shelton is another one that's an undeveloped road that's been chip sealed. So trying to put this list together of priority, but also in the area, because you have, the contractors have deployment costs, so we can't be we wouldn't want to run from Tate right over to Shorty Shelton and back over. So that's why, Shorty Shelton probably would be up at the number 2, but we're trying to do these kind of by zone.
But the way you've got it kind of listed is kind of how you'd like to see it move
Yes.
as far as priority.
Yeah, as far as a
long we
priority.
can make that work with mobilization.
And then it kind of gets that mobilization kind of moving through the county systematically, where we're not jumping from one end of the county to the other end of the county. So that's very important. When you see one on there like Paving Road number 12, that's from Highway 151 to K Conley, and I show that as like a phase 2. We did the main stretch, the heavy thoroughfare of Paving Road probably 3 years ago. This is a section there that you turn right beside the Methodist Church off of 151, and it goes up to a stop sign there at Kate Conley. So that's why it's kind of lists that as a phase 2. Same thing there, number 15, Straight Gut Road. I think in 2015, 2016, the previous administration paved from Farming Rock Road, Old Lafette Road, down to the prison at that time, and so, but they didn't finish Straight Gut, so this would be going back like as a phase 2 or a final phase to go basically from the prison where they left off all the way to Highway 136, which is a little over 5 miles. Also, we have discussed publicly, there's been public comment and people come from the community of our situation within Fieldstone Farms. We have a lot of base problems there. The Public Works Department has been working and digging that out and repacking that and putting down crusher run and all to get that compaction. And so in essence there, we would be going in and repaving that entire subdivision all at one time. So that's kind of there in the middle of the list. Probably the road that's going to be the most significant in repairs is number 31 is Salem Road. That road's probably the one that I have reviewed, and I have drove every one of these that has starting in several places has some base failure where we're going to have to go in there and do some deep patching. We've done that in past. We're on some of our roads that were really, really bad. Most of these other roads, we may do some milling and things and do some leveling and top coating, but basically Salem Road's probably the worst as far as a true base failure. And so then if you'll notice there around where we get into number 32, that All Good, John Thompson, that's the roads over there in the Flintstone community in and around the ball fields that takes you all the way to Chattanooga Valley Middle School. And so that's all in very rough shape. So a lot of those roads there you may not recognize that finish out that list are little side roads off of that John Thompson and Chattanooga Valley Road over in that whole community. Because you see some of those are just, 800, 700 feet and all. If we don't do those while we're there, and they are in bad shape, but if we don't do those, the chances of ever coming back to hit a road that's 1 or 2/10 of a mile is going to be very, very expensive to do. So you'll see there, we're just shy of 35 miles of road, paving 41 roads. We don't truly know what costs are going to be. We don't know. Carlin does a good job every time we do paving of evaluating which roads we mill. These roads are different widths, so our cost per mile per road will vary. But I estimate kind of from a high level that we're looking at about probably somewhere about a $6 million project here to pave all of these, and that's my best guesstimate. And that is the way I've kind of backed into that is that's how much money the citizens approved in the 2020 SPLOST allotment for road paving. And so that's how we've come up to this number. In years past when we've put the road list out, we make a lot of people happy because their road's on here. But we also hurt some feelings and have some unhappy people because their road's not on here. And if you look at the number of roads that probably really truly need paving, it's probably 250 miles of road or better. So this is by far not paving all the roads that need paving. This is just paving the roads we got the funding for. And then in our T-Splosh, we've got the funding set aside to finish out the West Cove Road and the switchback and down through Mountain Cove Farms out of that fund because that's where we started funding those out of. But this will be our first big paving allotment out of the SPLOST. So again, different people could put this list together and come up with different roads because there's still dozens and dozens of roads and hundreds of miles since we are approaching, close to 700 miles of road. Since we had implemented and passed T-Splosh in 2017, we had paved about around 125 miles of road since 2017. Here's another 35. That's still under 200 miles when we got almost 700 miles of road. So it's, you can see, it's very expensive to pave roads, and it's probably more expensive than it's been in many, many years because of just the cost of fuel and paving and materials to do that. But outside of just the typo there on where the Tate Road starts and ends, it's nowhere around Highway 27, it's in Villanelle. I think we've got a good solid list here. Any questions or concerns on this list?
Yes, so when do we anticipate bidding this, and then when do we anticipate voting on the bid?
Well, we'll get this out right away. Even the resolution says to have this listed, by, at the latest, by May 1st. I think we typically go through about a 30-day process, so we'll probably be coming back. So they probably put us our first meeting in June. Hopefully, we can get back with action from this board, or for the board to take action on approving the vendor to do this scope of work. And at that time, this body would have the ability to even split it up if there's more than one vendor or, whatever. So it would be at the board's discretion at that point. All this does is allow us to say, this is our focus, this is what we want to do. We're going to put it on the procurement site to receive bids to come back to this board.
Okay. So if we vote the first meeting in June, we could possibly start work as early as mid-June.
That's going to depend up to the contractor.
Well, that was my question, is when we put this out on state procurement, we look at these vendors, can we or do we ask for a time frame that they can mobilize? Because, they may be the low vendor, but if they can't mobilize for 6 months, that's not doing us any good.
Yeah, that's
So
a great point.
I'm just wondering, can we add something in?
We could ask that question.
Ask that question and have them give us a pretty close estimate on when they can mobilize, because I think that would be.
We probably need to also
important
look
on
not
who we
only
use.
that, but how fast they can mobilize, but also completion.
Yes.
Because they might come run up here and do
Yeah.
2 or 3 roads
Yeah.
and then go on to other projects. So yeah, we'll ask for when they can start and how long they think it'll take them.
Yeah.
And you mentioned possibly multiple vendors?
That is at the discretion of the board. Now,
Okay.
that may affect the pricing from a vendor, but, it would be at the pleasure of the board of how that award is put out.
Okay. Thank you, that's good to know.
All right, any other questions?
So, one other question, I know Carter's sitting back there, so we didn't see Rio Road on this list, and I know that's a road that's pretty bad, and if we're not gonna pave it, I just ask that we get just some grading and ditching work done on that road, and maybe add some millings to it. I think we talked about that already, but, okay, other than that, I'm good, very appreciative of the
Yeah. and-
roads we are getting paved.
Yes, and that is one, that Rio Road is a very rural road over in Villanelle that does have a few residents on it that we're gonna have to keep maintaining. There are other roads, that are undeveloped
Yep,
in our
sure,
county. I think
yes.
we had over 20 miles of undeveloped roads, unpaved roads in our county still. So as you can see, the ones that I pointed out is just a small fraction of that. So there are roads that we will still continue to have to put gravel on. Another one that is an undeveloped road, I forgot to mention, is number 9, Browns Hollow Road. That's an old one that's chip seal. I drove it the other day, and I told the team that even though it's gravel, it's the best shape I've seen it in the 6 years I've been here. So our road department's done a great job of maintaining that. But that's completely a gravel road, and that's 0.6 of a mile that dead ends. And there's quite a bit of school bus traffic on that road. There's quite a few families with kids there on that road. So that's another undeveloped road that would be on this list to get knocked out. Okay, anything else?
No, sir.
All right, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve Exhibit A for Resolution R 1823 to post these roads for paving?
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hart. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second by Commissioner Askew. Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this is approved unanimously. Okay, next one is Resolution R 1923, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Walker County to revise the public safety fee assessed in the county fire and rescue district, whereas the Board of Commissioners of Walker County Board is the governing authority of Walker County, Georgia, and whereas on September 20th, 1994, Walker County established the County Fire and Rescue District to provide public safety services including but not limited to firefighting, emergency management, rescue, and first responder services. And whereas Section 30-87C of the Code of Walker County establish the cost of providing service in said district shall be paid by a special assessment public safety fee levied and collected within the district at the same time and in the same manner as an ad valorem tax for real property and personal property. Whereas Section 30-81D of the Code of Walker County established the board has the authority to establish the fee schedule for the public safety fee yearly as part of the board's fiscal year budget. Whereas the current public safety fee took effect on fiscal 2018 budget. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Walker County, Georgia, that effective with the county's fiscal 2024 calendar year, the cost of providing public safety services under the public safety fee in the county fire and rescue district shall be set forth in Exhibit A attached hereto and made part thereof. So resolved and adopted the 14th day of April 2023. One thing I wanted to mention here as we talk about the district, the actual district that this applies to is all of the unincorporated portion of Walker County and including the city of Chickamauga. The city of Chickamauga elected to participate in this, and I believe that goes all the way back to 1994. But our other cities have their own fire department, and so people that live within the city limits of Lafayette, Rossville, Lookout Mountain, and the portion of Walker County that's in the city of Fort Oglethorpe do not pay this fee. It's only the unincorporated and the city of Chickamauga is the district that this serves. So any additional questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
as a matter of correction here, it says resolve this 14th day of April, so it will be the 13th day of April.
Good catch. We have a typo there. We're off by one day. So that needs to be the 13th day of April. Thank you, sir. Okay, and so the Exhibit A that this is replying to is what Fire Chief Blake Hodge went over, where we're going from a 10 cent per square foot to a 14 cent per square foot and making some adjustments to the min-maxes of those fees. And it also states this goes into effect for our fiscal year 2024. So this would, hopefully we can make the deadline to go on the notices that go out by the assessor's office in May, so people will be notified of this. But our residents and property owners would see this on their October tax bill that would be due December 20th. And so this would not go into effect into that next tax cycle. All right. Any discussion of the board?
I just want to comment that I think when you look at the number of fire calls, especially number of medical calls, lift assist calls, Chief, that's just quite impressive. And I think when we look at increasing any fees, it's not a popular subject, but I will say this. I think regressing to a service that is not as great as what we've got now, a lot of folks are going to fall through the cracks. Response time will slow down. And these 3,276 folks who benefited from a first responder rendering aid, potentially saving a life, I think is very important. And I worry a lot about a mass casualty event. If we regress, how could we handle that? We couldn't. And so, just based on your report and these numbers, I just think it's something that we need to move forward with.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments of the board?
I would just tend to agree. We tried, this board's worked hard to hold fees and money back, and we're all taxpayers as well, but those numbers are phenomenal. And like you said, with mass casualty, and even what we've talked about in here many times before, with the fentanyl crisis and things that are happening, we've got, and just the increase, and the number that really got me, and I hush, the number that really got me was when you said that, Chief, that with this increase, 48% of the people are just going to be back to where they were 7-8 years ago or better.
7.
Yeah. So I mean, That's phenomenal for the amount of increase of service that we've got for that money. I hate to see us have to increase anything, but it's a very worthy, and I would tend to agree 100% that we need to move forward with it.
I think one thing too to remember on the medical costs, as you indicated, are up. And we have 5 ambulances that we pay a fee to from CHI Memorial. They do a great job, but a lot of times they're having to move people and transport people into Tennessee, and they're out of their district for that coverage. So having 7 stations of trained personnel to respond to those first response calls definitely are saving lives, because I would say there's a large percentage of the time they are getting there before the ambulances are able to get there, because there's 5 ambulances and they're going even across the state line, versus our fire department typically stays within their supporting area in surrounding communities where we have automatic aids with. But if we didn't have that, the medical and the delay of getting people transported and all, we would see a dramatic downturn.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion?
Just appreciate you, Chief, and the presentation you put together. I think it was great. I think we have a great fire chief. He's got the best interest of our citizens at heart and giving us a great service. We recognized a couple firemen for saving a lady's life not too long ago. Chief talked about we're fixing to recognize a couple more for saving a baby. I mean, you can't put a price tag on a life, and our fire department's proven true, and I think.
And it's pennies on, you break it down in the day, like Chief, like you kind of broke it down to us, you break it down monthly, you break it down daily, it's not even a cup of coffee or a soda pop or whatever somebody's pleasure may be, so awesome job.
Good. Anything else? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve Resolution R 1923 to establish the FY24 public safety fee?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Blakemore. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Stoltz. Any further discussion or question of the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. Okay. The next item we have is Resolution R 20-23, a resolution of Walker County Board of Commissioners to amend the Employee Electronic Property and Communication System Policy. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of Walker County Board is the governing authority of Walker County, Georgia, and whereas the board has determined it is desirable and necessary to update the county's Employee Electronic Property and Communication System Policy to clarify the responsibilities of each employee concerning the use of county computers and networks. And therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Walker County, Georgia, that the Walker County Government Employees Electronic Property and Communication System Policy attached hereto, marked as Exhibit A and incorporated by reference, is hereby adopted and shall be implemented immediately. Be it further resolved, any other resolution or county policy addressing the use of county computer and networking systems prior to this date that is now in conflict with any of the provisions of this resolution is hereby repealed. So resolved the 13th day of April 2023. It is in the packet, so just in summary, because we got some different colors going on here that people look at. So everything that is in a black type color, that is what was in the document that was passed at the previous meeting. Everything that is in a green color is what our team internally worked on and made modifications, and also anything that's in black type that is strike through is a recommendation from the team. And then you'll see on the first page, you'll see some type that is in red. After our secondary counsel, Ken Gerard, reviewed this document, he had some input, and so the team reassembled and incorporated that input. So we put that in red so everyone could see what Ken Gerard had recommended. So I want to give hats off to Joe Legee and to Angie Teams. Curtis Creekmore and David Gottlieb was our internal team that worked on this. We had meetings over 3 different days. I think the shortest meeting was the one most recent, and I think it was about 2 hours. And so I just wanted to point that out because they really all took this very serious and wanted to have good input and also not just think about the things that affect people that are in current positions, but how this affects long-term for the betterment of the county and, thinking situations currently, but also the long-term effects and how things need to move forward. So hats off to the team. They've done a great job. I'm very happy with the work and the outcome of this, and I feel like that we've been able to incorporate a great document. So I highly support this and feel like that this is spot on to where we need to be. But it is a living document. So as technology changes, this is something the board always has the ability, whatever board's in place, to go back and make tweaks to it along the way.
Well, I think it's kind of what we've shown here. We adopted a starting point, and
Yes.
then we were able to pull a team together and make some additions and omissions and things that would help us. So
Yeah.
I think that proves that it's a working document in place.
Yeah, good point, good point. So, yeah, great work, great collaboration, and the team members are all here tonight, so if there's any questions or concerns or anything, we can have the team to also address any of those questions.
One comment I'd like to make just for clarification purposes is I know that this looks rather lengthy and it's in different colors and there are some areas where there are strike-throughs, but if this is adopted, approved, then the final will just be the clean copy, one color, there won't be any more deletions. That will actually shorten the length from what it is now because there are sections that have been stricken. Some of those that have been stricken actually have just moved also a little bit in their location to try to make things a little bit more user-friendly. It won't look like this in our minutes books with all of this. It'll be less confusing, less complex to review.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a great point, because this is just, we wanted everybody to see what had been revised from the last one. So that's a great point. Joe's got the ability, he can hit a couple of buttons on the computer and update this where we do have that clean copy. So then when our HR department starts sharing this and bringing our team members up to date, they see a clean copy that's easy to follow. So great point there. Anything else?
I would just ask just a quick comment from both of our IT and HR. Just y'all are comfortable with everything as well. Y'all have worked hard on this, as the chairman has said. But just for purposes of an open meeting, y'all are comfortable with this policy as well.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, and that's a great question, and I appreciate them being here tonight. But as we went through this, we literally went paragraph by paragraph, and we had it up on the screen, and we would refine every section of this to where everybody was unanimous and in total agreement with the outcome of this. And anytime there was something, we would come to a consensus and in agreement to make sure it was satisfactory to everybody. So we had everybody at the end, when we read back through it, everybody give a thumbs up. So this was a good revision. All right, good point. Anything else?
I would like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Blake Moore on Resolution R 2023 to adopt this resolution. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Hart. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes unanimously. Okay, good work. Okay, Resolution R 2123, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Walker County to appoint a member to the Northwest Georgia Region 1 Emergency Medical Service Council. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of Walker County Board is the governing authority of Walker County, Georgia, and whereas one of the duties delegated to the chairman of the board is to appoint members to all committees of the board with the approval of the board, and whereas the Northwest Georgia Region 1 Emergency Medical Service Council coordinates, facilitates the improvement of and maintenance and maintains a quality emergency medical service system in our 16-county region. Whereas statewide changes to regional EMS Advisory Council bylaws have resulted in new terms, dates, and lengths of terms. And whereas the term of Curtis Creekmore, a Walker County representative, will soon expire, whereas Creekmore has provided exponential representation as a representative of the Walker County and desires to continue to serve on the Northwest Georgia Region 1 Emergency Medical Service Council, whereas Chairman Whitfield submits the following appointment to serve as a representative of the Walker County on the Northwest Georgia Region 1 Medical Service Council. Curtis Creekmore for a 3-year term ending on June 30th, 2026. Therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Walker County, Georgia, that the appointment of Curtis Creekmore is approved. So resolved and adopted the 13th day of April 2023. And you see in the attachment that this letter came from the Department of Community Health for the Northwest Georgia Region 1 Emergency Medical. It does show that our current representative is Curtis Creekmore, and that they were needing a decision back from us by June the 12th, 2023, to continue this term that would expire on July 1st if we do not extend this term or appoint someone. Curtis has done a great job. He's got 30 years plus of experience in this industry and has represented us well. And so I'd like to make the motion that the board accept this resolution and the reappointment of Curtis Creekmore. So do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Hart. Any discussion or question of the board? Hearing none, all in favor of this resolution to make sure Curtis stays with us another 3 years? All say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, he's on the hook for 3 more years.
He told me he was gonna retire before that was here, but we'll see.
I think we just set him up. Okay, the next item we have here is a purchase order, purchase order number 2023-1464. The total amount of the purchase order is $73,365.76 for 2 Ford Explorers from Prater Ford. The funding comes out of our budgeted general fund. We do have budget allocation for this. This would be to purchase the 2 Ford Explorers. They are 4-wheel drive, but they are their commercial base model Explorers like we've been purchasing. These are $36,682.88 each. So you'll see that in the purchase order, as well as the dealer receipt acknowledgement that came from Prater Ford that shows kind of the features and kind of the specifications of this vehicle, and notes that it is a 4-wheel drive. It is a base model vehicle. And you'll see that these vehicles have been on order by the dealer since mid-September. So they've not arrived yet, but to get our name on 2 of these so they don't get gone, because there's still a shortage of vehicles. But we would buy these, and one of the goals was to take one of our existing extended cab Ford pickup trucks and do some swapping around so we can get our coroner in a new 4-wheel drive, or newer 4-wheel drive vehicle per his request, and to get the equipment on that as well. And so if we could buy a pickup truck, we would order pickup trucks, but they can't get them, on the government contract. So this is our next best option to be able to move some things around. I don't have a delivery date estimate on these. I did reach back out to the dealer yesterday for an update, and he did not have one. But he did tell me that the 2 Ford Escapes that this board approved for the assessor's office have arrived, and they're getting those ready to be put into service, but these Ford Explorers have not come in yet. Any questions on this purchase order? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve purchase order 2023-1464 in the amount of $73,365.76 for the 2 Ford Explorers from Prater Ford?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Blakemore. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Stoltz. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it's approved unanimous. Okay, our department statistics reports in the packet. Busy activity month in our animal services division. 121 dogs came in and 15 cats, but you'll see on the outgo or outtake there was 189 dogs and 17 cats. So we actually had some of our February inventory of animals that we were able to get out, and you'll see there was some of those were adoptions, but many of those did go to rescues. But very proud of the staff and their commitment to try to rehome or get back to the rightful owner of every animal that comes in the door. So there was not any animals that had to be euthanized in the month of March. And for the first quarter of the year, there was only 3 dogs that had to be euthanized for the entire year. So we are beating the national standards on our euthanasia once again. We get down to our registered voters. It's always interesting to me since we've started tracking this and getting this data from our election office. 219 people registered to vote in Walker County in the month of March. Speaking of our fire department, they had a very busy month. Typically they run 500, 550 calls, but they actually responded to 604 calls for the month. I wanted to mention about our smoke alarms. Our smoke alarm numbers are kind of trending down. I hope that means that every household has adequate smoke alarms, but I'm afraid that may not be the case. So just wanted to mention tonight that anyone that doesn't have smoke alarms or they need to be updated and replaced, they can call the fire department headquarters in Walker County, leave a message there, and they'll send a couple of our professionals out to install the proper number and placement of smoke alarms in your home at no cost. No questions asked. It's not based off income, size of home, anything like that. They just would rather come help protect you and your family. Mountain Cove Farms was very busy with 79 bookings for March. New home construction, single-family home construction, 39 permits in March, 45 in February. We've added an additional line item here. This was information that our system was capturing, but we were not reporting this. But since we had may even be a record month over the last several years of actual building inspections. And so that could be everything from the footing inspections to the plumbing inspections, electrical, that's all kind of rolled up into this number. But 356 inspections for the month of March and 205 for February, and you can see the historical data how over the last several years that has been trending up. So we were able to go back and capture that data and get that on our list. So appreciate the team working on that. You look there, added 126 followers to Facebook, and over 42,000 people viewed our website. Pothole patching is still always probably going to be in our life, as many roads as we have from now on. But we do have the new pothole patching truck in service. I guess now it's been in service about 2 weeks. And the truck goes out every opportunity possible to patch as many holes as we can with a hot asphalt mix. And so appreciate the board approving that back a few weeks ago. It's already made a tremendous impact, and we've got a good crew on that. And so that truck is running wide open. So I know that we're getting in some better, drier months. We're going to see those numbers go way up. Our transit department was super busy with over 3,000 transit trips as well. So that's just some overview of just some of the things we look at every month with our statistics. Down to our commissioner comments, we'll go over to Commissioner Blakemore, District 1.
Just appreciate everybody coming out, getting involved in your government. Appreciate all the county employees and all the departments and all their hard work for our county. If I can help in any way, call, text, or email. Thank you.
Commissioner Askew?
I want to just give a shout out, as we try to regularly, to all of our employees. We focused tonight on some statistical numbers from the fire department, because that's what we're focused on was tonight. But the road department, all of our departments, the counties, things are moving. As you said on those statistics, the 350 something inspections, which was more, is up 45% from last year at this time. Of course, we've got a lot of growth going on. And I think that's why it's important that we did what we did as far as keeping our public service, our public safety in the forefront by keeping that. So thanks to everybody, all the employees, every department, all you do, because it shows in the numbers, and it shows in our quality of life here. So just thanks to all of y'all.
Very good. Commissioner Hart.
Shannon mentioned our new pothole patching machine that thing came through Villa the other day, and it's really impressive what that thing will do. Fixed a lot on Cantrell Road, y'all did a lot of work there, Carl, and it looks great, so glad we got that. I hope we keep that thing moving. And thank you, Chief, for your presentation. It was kind of long. That's okay.
That was short for Blake.
It was very thorough, yeah, and thanks to the guys that work for you as well as other county employees, Robert.
Thank you, sir. Yes, appreciate all the hard work our county employees do in every department. Thank you for your dedication, and thank you for keeping our county safe, our roads open, our roads patched, our rubbish taking care of it, so thank everybody. I just want to make note for folks to put this on their calendar on Wednesday, May 17th, at the Civic Center. Walker County Senior Citizens Day will be starting up. It's kind of had a hiatus for a couple of years, but it's going to start up. It will be a great day to honor our seniors. It'll be a fun day with bingo, door prizes, Lucky Eye Barbecue will be providing the barbecue, so you know that'll be wonderful. And just a great event. It was started back in the 70s. My dad and several other community leaders started it down at the rec center. So it's a wonderful event, and so I'll mention it again at our next meeting. Also, I want to mention that there will be a rabies clinic this Saturday. Gordon Lee School from 1 to 2:30, Rock Spring Elementary from 3 to 4, and Naomi Elementary from 4:30 to 5:30. It's $15 cash, so get those animals vaccinated. And then finally, in the Cove, the Vintage Market Days will be back in the Cove, and it will be up and running Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with a variety of antiques, clothing, vintage clothing, and home decor. So that'll be a fun event to go to. Thank y'all.
Very good.
And also our tire industry
Yeah.
is coming up. I didn't know if you're gonna catch it or
Yeah,
not.
thank you for that. I was going to mention that as well. Next Saturday week, April the 22nd, which is Earth Day, is our Tire Amnesty Day. So we do have some requirements from our citizens that you limit the number of tires that you bring to 12. We can't take any more than 12 from anybody. So if you bring 13 tires, you're going to be taking one back home, so to speak. Also, the tires need to be free from any debris, water, trash, leaves, rocks, dirt, that type of things, because the recycler can't recycle those items, so we got to have tires that are clean. So unfortunately, if you bring tires that you've not yet cleaned out, we're going to have a line that you'll move over to where you'll get an opportunity to clean those tires out before we are able to receive those tires. So it'd be much more efficient to clean them at home. We can get you through the process much quicker. But this is limited to passenger and light truck tires that are off the wheels that are clean. This is not for large truck tires, large farm tires, anything like that, because a recycler cannot handle those large tires. This has to be passenger or light truck tires off the wheels. There is no charge for this. You can bring up to 12 between the hours of 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on April the 22nd, which is Saturday week. Also, we take recycling of other materials 6 days a week. So if you've got some aluminum cans or metals or plastic or any of those type things that you want to bring as well, you'll have to go through a different service line, but you can bring your other recyclables to the landfill anytime, 6 days a week when we're open, and drop those into the recycling bins that we do have established. So if you're coming and bringing some tires and have some other things, you can do that, but I do want you to know you'll have to go through 2 separate lines for processing of those. So at this time, is there any other business, or do we have any reason for executive session?
Yes, sir.
I think we do need executive session to discuss employees and real estate right quick.
Okay, so we have a motion then from Commissioner Askew for an executive session for personnel and real estate. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Stoltz. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we do stand adjourned to look at that.
Hi, I'm Joe Legee, Public Relations Director for Walker County Government. The board has just entered executive session. This is a process that allows elected officials to discuss a specific, sensitive topic behind closed doors. These are topics that are exempt from the Georgia Open Meetings Act. Executive session topics must fall into one of three categories: litigation, real estate, or personnel matters. In terms of litigation, the need may arise for the board to consult with a county attorney on pending or potential lawsuits, settlements, claims, administrative proceedings, or other judicial actions brought by or against Walker County government, its officers, or employees. Real estate covers discussions regarding the future purchase or acquisition, disposal, or lease of property. Personnel matters would cover the discussion or deliberation on the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action, or dismissal of a Walker County government officer or employee. Now, if a vote is needed pertaining to an issue discussed in the executive session, it must be taken in an open meeting. Otherwise, it is not binding.
Okay, it is Thursday, April 13th, 2023. It is 9:36. We are exiting our executive session. There's no further action of the board at this time. Do we have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion from Commissioner Askew. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Stoltz. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, we are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.